Fire it up, footballers! Welcome back to another episode of Spitting Postgame with Jeffrey and James. Let's get right into it. So the Fire won 1-0 against Atlanta United. We'll get right into the stats. Atlanta United controlled the majority of the game with 58.5% possession, 41.5% possession for the men in red. Shots, 14 for Atlanta, 4 of those on net, 11 for Chicago, 3 of those on net. Passes, 518 for Atlanta. 85% of those were completed. 383 passes for Chicago Fire. 83% of those were completed. The interesting thing about that is if you go on MLS.com and look at the stats, you can actually see that Atlanta United, they completed about 360 passes in the Fire half, so our defensive half. So they completed almost
320.
Yeah, it was like 360 around there.
It was 320,
320
to about 380 total Chicago Fire passes total.
So they had more passes in our half. Now the final third, I also have that. They have so going a little bit further up the pitch, they had 150 passes in the final third compared to our 80. So about half there. Crosses 29 compared to 6 for the Chicago Fire. Corners, 12 compared to 3 for the Chicago Fire. 44 aerial duels, 1 for Atlanta United, 25 for Chicago Fire. 7 clearances for Atlanta, 28 for Chicago Fire. So
I gotta say, for the 29 corners and the 12 corners and the 29 crosses that Atlanta did generate, it didn't seem like to really have too many goal-scoring threat chances. They were the more threatening team in general with the ball, as they had almost 60% of the possession. And they were absolutely the more threatening team going forward as they were attacking you, whether they had the ball or the Fire had the ball. They were that always throw it at you press that they were kind of running there. But they also played a really youth-heavy side. They only had 2 basic starters out there, Miguel Almiron and Hector Villalba.
And their center back Paris.
But even with fielding mostly a second team, they outclassed for the Fire for too long in that match, I thought. For a team that played 10 out of their 11 starters.
Well, they had the majority of the possession.
They had the majority of the possession.
You're upset that a side that fielded majority of subs and reserve players had more possession than our team where we fielded the majority of the starters.
Looked better. They looked like the better team in general. However, the Fire ended up with the point and ended up with the goal and ended up with the result that mattered.
No, you're exactly right. We'll get into a little bit of the game now. So first half, Atlanta were pretty much the better side for about the first 25 minutes. The Fire were the better side for the next 15, and then that last 5 minutes, the 40 to the 45th minute, Atlanta were the better team again. So like you're saying, Atlanta had the majority of the possession, weren't fruitful with it. That's that same story for the Chicago Fire. You know, when they had their runs of sustained possession, they weren't generating anything. Kind of the same story where they just can't unlock that final third. But both teams were very effective on the counterattack. I think that's where both teams, were the most dangerous. Maybe when one team was possessing, they can, spring a couple balls together and catch a team spread out and score. And that's actually how the Chicago Fire scored their 1 goal in the second half.
Yeah, Fire seemed to be, in general, just a better counterattack team. And one thing that we saw often in this game, and we've been seeing a lot this year, is they have like a negative possession style or negative. They're not going forward. If they have the choice to go forward or backwards, more than likely they're going to go backwards. Even to the point in the 69th minute where they had a place where they could a dead ball and a good spot to get a cross off, and they just keep electing for these short passes. And right after, basically just give the ball away. And we keep seeing these instances of negative possession leading to balls given away. However, their press in those zones, pretty good because it'll turn around that they could get the ball back and then it launches a counterattack. It's not a really good way to play, but they are producing some chances out of their best way to produce chances is from this counterattack.
But you're right. They do like having possession. A lot of their balls are backwards, meaning negative balls. And you saw that a lot when Basti was back there playing center back. A lot of the possession was in front of Richard Sanchez. And conversely, when you watch Atlanta, they like running at you with the ball. If it's Miguel Almiron, he's running at Kapilov. He might have 2 or 3 options making runs to the side of him. They're not on, then he'll cut it back and go backwards. While the Fire, they just, a little bit more, reserved, or maybe they just don't even have those options going forward. But I do agree in that the Chicago Fire do pass the ball backwards a bit more. And what you said, one more thing, hold on, about set pieces. They do play short set pieces, and pet peeve of mine are short set pieces, especially, when you don't get a chance out of them. If it's a 20, 30-yard dead ball and you can whip across in there, take that half chance. How many times did we see the Chicago Fire, Basti will roll a ball to Dax, and either that ball will either be lost and led to a counter, or somehow that ball will find its way back to Richard Sanchez, and now we're building back from Richard Sanchez. So we got to get away from the short, dead ball thing and just whip the ball in.
And it is a problem relying on building out of the back from Richard Sanchez. Most MLS teams have figured out the Fire, that the way to beat the Fire is that high press, put pressure on the back four to play the ball out. Also, by putting pressure on that back four, what they're really doing is they're putting pressure on Richard Sanchez, whose passing ability out of the back is quite poor and is being taken advantage of by many opponents.
And you made a good point. Other teams definitely are keying on the Fire's
backline
willingness to pass backwards. So when they do pass backwards, they step and they put them under.
They swarm and they put them under.
Second half.
Oh wait,
the Chicago Fire scored. Let's get into it a little bit.
I just want to cover. I have a few thoughts. Soloniak.
Okay.
Can't even fake out USL level players or MLS reserves. However, that was just a couple times where he's just not that creative type. Past that, he had some great moments of great passes, some great decision making that helped lead to the goal as well. Campos on that attacking right back spot offered something that we have not seen at that right back spot all season for the most part, it seems, except for the exception of the one time that Drew Connor played there, maybe Rafa Ramos. But they didn't. What we saw out of Campos was that getting forward, constantly driving at the player, constantly making the opposing opposite back of the other team have to worry about him.
Well, you're right. He looked. A lot of times when you watch European football, fullbacks right now are one of the biggest things. Sometimes you'll see players like a Hector Bellerin, a right fullback. Sometimes he is on the opposition's back line, almost as a second winger, way up trying to get in behind. We do get that a bit from Corrales, but when Ellis is playing there, he just doesn't get up the pitch at all. And soccer,
Ellis, you're talking Ellis.
What did I say?
You say Corrales does get up the pitch on the left back.
Corrales gets up, but when Ellis
is on
plays
the right
back, he just doesn't get up the pitch. No. And he doesn't drag a defender back with him. So that is something I would like to see going forward. Now with Campos, offensively it was good. Defensively, he just didn't have very many opportunities to showcase his defensive skills. I mean, we need to see him to be able to win aerials, win the one-on-one defending battles. Those two, there weren't really opportunities for them to showcase those skills. And position. He did position well at times. First 5-10 minutes, he was a little bit off the line, but then he picked it up. I do think it was a good game for Campos at right back.
My last first half thought was, what was that? What was that half? I thought I was like, oh my gosh, we were getting outplayed by this team that was.
It's just the more of the same. We can't do when we have possession, when we have a run of sustained possession, we struggle scoring. We have better chance scoring off a counterattack, letting them have the possession, winning it, and then going to goal.
Leicester City style.
And that's what we saw the second half. So the second half, the Fire controlled the first 5-10 minutes, and then after that, it really was Atlanta United. Atlanta United had that possession, weren't dangerous with it, and the 54th minute, the Chicago Fire scored probably one of their prettiest goals of the year. It was just beautiful. Atlanta United were attacking. The Chicago Fire dug it out. Dax McCarty won it. He drove with the ball. He dribbled the ball 20 or 30 yards. He made a good run with it. He played a ball to Katai. Katai was out wide. Dribbled in, took a couple guys on, passed it to Basti. Basti slipped Lucho, making a run in, and then Lucho slipped Nico, making a run back post, and it was an easy tap in.
Great runs by everybody. Yeah. Great passes by everybody. What great linkage from that entire little interplay there on a counterattack.
Yeah, but aside from that one positive play, that was really it. And again, that was from a counterattack. So a counterattack, why they're so effective, is the other team is far up the pitch.
They're behind you.
And then when they have to drop, when you drop, you start getting stretched, and there's just not enough numbers back. And that's when we see the Chicago Fire at their best, those counterattacks.
The biggest thing that Fire had going for them is they have the midfield of Basti and Dax, and you can see when you have a midfield with that level of quality, what it could do to opponents who don't have that same quality in the midfield. Just like what happened with Croatia and Argentina earlier today, where Croatia just had a midfield with between Rakitic and Modric that Argentina just couldn't compete with.
Oh yeah, that was a fun game, by the way. Argentina, woof. Ellis came in for Campos in the 65th minute. A little tactical substitution there for Pano. Chani came in for Nico, the 78th minute. Alan Gordon came in for Katai, the 94th minute.
Probably just a waste of time.
Yeah, a little gamesmanship there from Pano. So I saw something interesting on Twitter. I saw some people were asking, did Veljko Paunovic out-coach Tata? And I don't think so. And I'm going to go with fact and say no. I really think this was one of the first games where we saw Pano just do what he has to do. He didn't outthink it, didn't get too creative. The only weird thing he did was with Campos.
That's creative.
But the back line before, I would say, is more creative than the back line for this game.
Yeah.
I mean, the back line of Brandon, Corrales, Kapelhoff, and Ellis is way more creative and experimental than just one guy out of position in Campos.
I mean, looking at the stats, you really can't say he got out-coached, but you can say he outpicked Tata.
Yeah.
Tata Martino did not take the game as seriously. He only trotted out 2 starters. The rest were reserves. And meanwhile, the Fire and Veljko Paunovic took it way more seriously, trotted out 10 starters. So that when you have the better starting 11 for longer, that's going to tend to have better results for you.
What's crazy is a lot of these games are so similar. I mean, the narrative really hasn't changed much. We haven't. When we do have possession, we can't unlock that final third. We're a counter-attacking team, still struggle on dead balls. Backline's still a little bit in flux. So
dead balls are a big issue.
The same storylines are there, but I will say overall, offensively it looks better, and defensively it's looking better.
Defensively it's looking better. Offensively it's
I guess it's more of the same.
It's a little bit better.
It's more of the same,
It's getting better in small little increments. Let's go some player thoughts. You want to go through there?
Yeah, player thoughts.
Sanchez, some great saves during the most of the match. He just had great saves, but his distribution, it's getting picked on.
Yeah, same story for him.
It's really getting picked on by every team that started to play these guys. They're starting to really pick on Sanchez as a playing.
Corrales, I would like to see Brandon there, but I will say Corrales, I like Corrales. I would like to keep him around. I know he was hovering around in USL the last couple of years. I would like to keep him. He's a nice guy to have on the team. I would like to see Brandon there. I think Brandon is the better overall player, just more two-way, offensively and defensively. We've been saying that for a while, but I think Corrales had a decent game.
I think Brandon could give you a full 90. I think Corrales,
he does tail a little bit.
I think Corrales really tails off after about 30 to 40 minutes. Although he puts a good shift, a good 30 to 40 minutes. But maybe that's more of a reserve player rather than
Campbell. So Campbell was really noticeable.
Campbell's fine.
The thing you notice most is he's just winning those aerials.
Well, and without even jumping, where Brandon Vincent in that same position would have to jump 6 inches to a foot to try and get the head ball, where Campbell just looks at it.
Yeah.
And Lillard looks at it and the ball flies away.
Yeah, Lillard wouldn't have to do it.
Lillard would be in the same boat.
Nice to see Campbell get some time.
But obviously, Campbell is ahead of Lillard on the depth chart, is what we're seeing too.
Good point. James, what do you think?
With Kapelhoff, one of his better games.
Yeah,
this is absolutely one of his better games. This is some of the games that he's been getting plaudits for. I was like, what? This was a game where you could give him some plaudits, where you could say he was all over. He was shutting people down. He was very active going forward as well. One thing that was really cool to see, because he had Campbell acting as a stay-at-home defenseman, Campbell was a stay-at-home defenseman, and Kapelhoff could act as that go-forward, that offensive D-man. And you saw that happen with Campos. Campos was up on the right side. He lost the ball. And Campos going forward was really good. But we was really diligent about getting back. And because he was so diligent about getting back, because Campbell was ready to play and stay at home, Kapelhoff popped out at the perfect timing, took the ball, and managed to turn it into an offensive chance.
I really think Kapelhoff is a comfort thing. He played very poor with 3 in the back. When there was a 3 in the back system, didn't play very well. When he was playing our true right back, didn't play very well. When we were in the 4 in the back system and he had an Ellis next to him and maybe a Brandon Vincent next to him, didn't play very well.
No.
So when you see a more proper traditional back line is when you see Johan Kapelhoff be his best. So we need to keep going with a more traditional back line. And it's funny because the next player, Campos, isn't a traditional.
But Kapelhoff is out for the next few matches, so we will be. All the other 2 guys will be getting some time and to potentially make a statement and to maybe earn the starting position from Brandon Vincent.
So Campos, it was playing right back. Like we said, traditionally not a right back But I thought he did a good job. Going forward, he added so much depth and width and just vertical, positive offense.
Forcing that player.
Forcing their player
to pay attention to
defend him. Defensively, wasn't involved, just nothing really came down that side, so we don't know where he is defensively 1v1s, winning aerials, positioning. But, I think it was a good game for what they asked him to do.
Dax McCarty, I thought it was a really solid game from Dax. Sometimes I compare him and Basti. I felt like he might have even had the better game between him and Basti. Dax was just everywhere. Basti, on the other hand, a great game, good game. Still missing some of that sharpness, but I also am starting to wonder if it's just because he's being asked to do so much. He's, he's that cog, he's the everyman.
And especially when he was playing center back, there was like 3 or 4 games there when we were in that 3 in the back system when he was playing back there. I mean, he was just working his butt off, and I mean, he was doing everything defensively and offensively, and then there's a part where Dax was out. I mean, so you definitely wonder if those minutes are catching up to him, having a little knocks, and he does put in the shift, and he is playing very well, but I know what you're saying. Some of those passes that he made in the beginning of the year, he's starting to look a little less crisp. Mm-hmm. But overall, very, very good stuff from Basti.
That, and he has a propensity to slow the game down even more than it needs to.
He just controls it too much.
A little too much.
I'm starting to have a little bit of a problem. It looks like Dax will look up. He has an idea and he wants to go this way, but then you see Basti. Hey, he's kind of controlling the tempo, and
but he would do that everywhere he went.
He's the masterclass football god, and he can do that. But it's just sometimes you just want to let the boys play. And
gotta have a little more hands off, and maybe not to protect them so much as let them get their lumps. Let them take their lumps and earn that, and then learn from their mistakes. You don't want to you don't want to protect them, because if you protect them too much, you're going to keep them in an egg.
Watch it. Sometimes you'll see Basti will he'll tell them where to pass, and if they don't, he'll you read his body language, and he's not appreciative. But anyway,
that's true.
Brant Bronico. So I wondered if they were going to play Mo this game just to get a little bit more defensive in there because we're playing Atlanta, but no, Brant was in there.
It's a better mix.
He's been doing well. Like we're saying, it's a little less redundant with him in there than Mo. And Brant, he's kind of an engine. I mean,
he's an engine.
All around the pitch. He plays bigger than he really is. I mean, he's a feisty guy, can make the balls, works hard. The Fire, I think, found the right center mid, to pair up with Basti and Dax.
So, for that 3 mid. Yeah. For their mid. And what was awesome yesterday, he flew in like a bat out of HE double hockey sticks and bumped the one player. And the one player was wasn't having it, grabbed him and dragged him down. But the great thing was that the ref saw it, knew that everything was fine, and just let it play on. And the Fire took the ball, started going the other way. That was really great.
Brand is definitely a bright spot. Lucho, James, you always get Lucho. What do you think?
Lucho, actually a good game from Lucho. Lucho doing what Lucho always does, being reliable, being where he needs to be, and making the right passes, always. That's the thing I always say about Lucho. Lucho always makes the right passes. He's always right where he needs to be. His biggest knock is he can't finish the chances, and his creativity isn't really that great. He's not a good dribble. He's not going to be dribbling at you with the ball like a Campos could. He doesn't have that ability or confidence, and you saw it yesterday where he telegraphed his move, and this USL level right back just easily just put him out and just took him the other way.
But you did see him showcase his ability to make runs.
Yes,
and he's a good passer. He's a good passer.
What a great player to have as a backup.
My big complaint is I just want to be involved a little bit more.
But yes,
instead of his 1.8 to 2%. Possession rate.
But he's relied on to be a starter, and that's
Nico. So Nico scored again. 2 back-to-back games that he scored in for U.S. Open Cup games. Nice to see him scoring. Need to get him scoring in the MLS.
They need to get him involved,
it's the same
because
story.
It's the same story.
Yeah, not involved, but one beautiful play, and he was at the right place at the right time and potted it. So same old from Nico. Need to get him involved.
Katai just looked like he just got done watching Casper the Friendly Ghost, and he was taking extensive notes.
He definitely wasn't as involved
for the level of competition.
Was that energy?
Maybe energy.
Was it this Atlanta just was smart and was marking him.
Maybe they did mark
maybe
him out a little.
bit of both.
You thought that he could take a little bit more advantage of the spots he was provided, but he didn't really get too many spots. And he did have one dangerous chance where he curled it on with his left foot. That was really good.
And it's funny, we're saying he didn't have as good of a game, but man, he still generated.
But he still generated
3-4 good opportunities for the Fire. But I mean, for his standards, I would say a little bit lower game, but still a good game.
Was involved in the goal. Was involved in the goal and was involved in another goal. But still, I mean, a good game. But
so my last thoughts
game from him.
My last thoughts is again, it looks like more of the same for the Chicago Fire. Not able to,
Ellis for Campos. You didn't say Ellis for Campos.
I said the subs, I think.
Well, the other team had Ezekiel Barco and Julian Gressel coming in, and I'm like, wow, they're getting scarier. While the Fire subbed out Campos and put in Ellis, and I'm like, they're not getting scarier when
they're getting more defensive.
They're getting more defensive, but you're putting also not really an MLS true starter in there. So I mean, like the quality is just a lot of the let-off in quality is there as well, and you're seeing that.
But they hung on.
They managed to get the points. They managed to get the win.
Let me say my last thoughts here. What I saw from the Chicago Fire is, again, more of the same.
Yes.
When they have that sustained possession, can unlock the final third. Counterattack was good. Need to see more on set pieces. Just whip a ball in there, please. We got to be scoring more goals on set pieces, specifically corners. I mean, take a look at the World Cup right now. Tons of goals are being scored on corners. So the Fire need to clean that up. And another thing that really grinds my gears is 29 crosses to 6 crosses. So Pano, at the end of this game, he had a good post-match conference there. Said some good things.
Positive.
Said some positive things like, we're looking like last year's team, learning to compete, we're improving. I do agree that they're starting to look like last year's team, but the one thing they're not doing is crossing the dang ball. 29 crosses to 6 crosses. And a lot of those crosses last year were from those fullbacks.
And they had opportunities
so we need to start whipping that ball in.
And what we saw then was them denying the chance to make those crosses. They had the ability, they had the opportunity to make the crosses, and what they would do is they would consistently choose not to make the cross, and they would pull back, and they would pass it backwards.
And then, we'd either lose it or Richard has the ball.
And they would either lose it or Richard has the ball. And when Richard has the ball, it allows the old team for the other team to press and put Richard in a position where he has to make a pass that he just sometimes can't make.
So, we just need to get more dangerous on offense, and then Pano needs to figure out a proper back four, and hopefully we can keep on.
But the Fire just barely beat ATL's team, the AU's team, with a team full of 10 starters, and while AU only had 2 starters and mostly reserves. So I mean, you thought that the Fire would play a little bit better, but they didn't.
This is kind of the theme with the Chicago Fire this year. They're winning games they're not supposed to. They're just
one comment from our friend who was watching with us, our buddy. He was saying the Fire looked really stiff, mechanical, while Atlanta just looked so organic. They just looked so fluid. But it didn't end up.
I think that goes
affecting the results.
That goes back to runs off the balls. Again, Atlanta, everyone is making diagonal runs, and the guy on the ball is running at you, which is a different style of play. While the Chicago Fire are way more, let's sit back a little bit, let the play develop, and move the ball up together. So, I think that's about all I have.
That's about all I have as well. Not a great result. But we need a better performance. Let's keep trending.
That's all I got.
Let's better performances, and going into this week against Seattle, we need to take these points. All right, boys and girls, that's about it from us. Toss us a like if you enjoyed the analysis. Comment below for any comments, corrections, whatever you guys want to add to the conversation, as per usual, and subscribe for more Spinning Fire. We'll see you guys later.
See you guys.